So Chloe and I just got back from seeing Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. There was the Sydney premiere here tonight, and this is the last film in the DCEU. So with that being said, does Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom go out with a massive splash, or does it go out with a... Stay tuned to find out. So yeah, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is the last film in the DCEU slate before James Gunn's DCEU takes over with the first film off the film rank with Superman Legacy. We've got David Corenswet playing Superman. So there's a lot riding on this film. And it seems like this has been in development, filming for so long. There are a lot of delays with COVID. There were setbacks with reshoots and stuff like that, but now we are finally here. The film is due out officially on Boxing Day here in Australia. I can safely say that it was a movie. And it sucks to say that. I just had high hopes for this film considering it had so much shit against it, including some of the actors in the film, certain things that had gone on behind the scenes, especially when it came to Warner Brothers and stuff like that. But at the same time, I held out hope, and at the same time, I was just so underwhelming and so sad to see the last cab off the DCEU rank be like this. There was just so much going on screen in terms of battles and visuals and some breathtaking concepts. But at the same time, I was taking nothing in. So the basic premise of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is we see Arthur Curry with child now who he's had with Mira. We see the return of Black Manta seeking revenge against Arthur, against Atlantis, and eventually the world for the death of his father, which I love. I love that they've brought back a villain from a previous film. You don't really see that a lot these days. Usually they just replace him with another pre-existing villain just for the sake of things and also to sell toys, hot toys, action figures, all that type of stuff. But I love this. I love the fact that we see Black Manta have a nice big redemption arc, a nice big revenge arc for that matter, over 2 films. Now, the original Aquaman film from 2018, I absolutely adored. I thought it was just such a charming film. Warts and all, it was by no means perfect, but it just seemed like an event. Whereas Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, it seems like an obligation for the cast and crew just to get this done, to get it in the can, done and dusted, out into the world, and then that's it. The DCEU is done and dusted. At one point, Ben Affleck even came back for a supposed cameo as Bruce Wayne. We saw the behind the scenes photos, him and Momoa. We assume this is going to be a post-credit scene, mid-credit scene, or even just a cameo in the thick of the film. That never came to be. That was deleted because of things that had gone on with The Flash, and eventually just the DCEU coming to an end when James Gunn stepped in. And there are times where the film itself just felt like a Disney Plus series, like you could have just put this on streaming. Now when it comes to the writing, the film relies a lot on comedy, and that usually isn't a bad thing. But in the case of the DCEU, I always love that they pride themselves on their dark elements and not overly relying on comedy, much like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But in this instance, there is so much slapstick comedy thrown in there, and at one point, Momoa's Arthur Curry falls on the ground and you expect an audience laugh track to play afterwards. I'm paraphrasing, but he falls down and essentially he's like, "Oh, I hate it when that happens." Just shit like that. There was one charming moment where we see Patrick Wilson's Orm running alongside Arthur Curry, and obviously because he's never been to the mainland, he doesn't know how to run, so he's running like Naruto. And then Momoa's like, "Just use your arms." He starts using his arms and he starts piss bolting past Arthur Curry. I thought that was funny. But there's just too much comedy thrown into it. Like, the 2018 Aquaman balanced the dark elements and the comedic elements perfectly. Even though, again, it's not a perfect film, it did it so well. It was definitely lightning in a bottle, and this film has just lost that edge. It's lost its spark in comparison to its predecessor. The CGI is unfortunately all over the place, and at some points just took me out of it, and I take no pleasure in saying that because I get it. Making movies is hard, man, but obviously you don't know what the budget was for the visual effects, you don't know what the time constraints were, deadlines and stuff like that. Some of the visual effects were brilliant. Some of the concepts were brilliant and must have looked amazing on paper and with concept and visual designs and stuff like that by the artisans. But at the same time, there are certain elements where you just see a floating head attached to a costume and it just takes you completely out of it. In terms of standouts for me, it's got to be Yahya Abdul-Mateen II's Black Manta. I just love his revenge arc in this film. I love that it's carried over from the first film and just not being replaced by another villain just for the sake of it. And there's also an octopus in the film that helps Aquaman and Orm, and it was charming. Reminded me of my dog. It's cute. Much like the 2018 film, the costumes and sets were on point. Like, especially when it comes to Dolph Lundgren's character. We've got Nicole Kidman back again, which was great to see. Aquaman's armor is brilliant. I do love the stealth suit. It's very reminiscent of Henry Cavill's Superman. Even Orm's casual costume is great. And that's one thing you can always rely on with films like this. The costumes, the set designs, it's going to be great. But unfortunately, the visual effects is just a massive letdown. It doesn't pair well with the practical. But such amazing concept designs that, again, would have looked great on paper and in concept design. I will give it to the film though. I do love the incorporation of the family coming together once again. Obviously, we see Arthur Curry re-enlist the help of his estranged and exiled brother Orm, and they come back together. We also see Nicole Kidman and Tamora Mortensen come back together, which is great. And to see them as a family and just a solid family unit once again was amazing. And it's perfect segue. Amber Heard as Mira. Her performance was severely underwhelming, but it's not even about that. And that's not even what I really want to talk about. It's more or less her presence on screen. You could feel in the cinema when she appeared on screen, you could cut the tension with a knife. It was weird. I couldn't explain it. Everyone went silent, and you could just feel everyone's backs kind of like arc up. And then there's an end credits scene that just ends on an absolute whimper. Like, you could have gone all out. You could have got Ben Affleck back, Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, even though there is nowhere to go off after this. There's nothing after this, but just to end on an absolute high note, just to give everyone that last little bit of hope and justice that they're like, okay, we're at peace. This is the end here. Something is coming in a few years' time, but no. Guys, overall, I wanted this film to be amazing, go out with a bang, but instead it's unfortunately gone out with a whimper. And again, I take no pride in saying that. I love the 2018 Aquaman film. Again, it's by no means a perfect film, but this just seems like it's lost its spark. And again, it just felt like an obligation for the cast and crew just to get it done, get the work done, get it out there, get it out to the world. And it's no longer their problem. And considering Chloe and I saw this in the brand new IMAX theater, and the last time I was in the old IMAX theater was for the premiere of Batman v Superman. And even though, again, that is by no means a perfect film, I had such fond memories watching that film in IMAX, and here we are now at the very end of the DCEU, and it's just gone out on a whimper. And don't get me wrong, this has been an incredibly flawed cinematic universe, but I just feel the characters, the castings, the costumes, everything has just been so rich, but it's also just been let down by such poor writing. And I just feel like you could have just given it your all, gone out with an absolute bang with this one, even with the credits scene. It was just so lackluster. Again, there is fun to be had. We were supposed to see the 3D version of this film, and unfortunately that was not working because of technical difficulties. I would highly advise you guys, if you are going to see this film, try and see it in 3D and in IMAX, because there are certain shots where you see like depth of field and things right there, and you're like, that would have looked good in 3D. And then that's it, guys. I got nothing else to say. The DCEU is done and dusted at this point. But with that, I'm going to be giving Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom 2 drumming octopuses, or octopies, out of 5. There are some nice elements in it. There is some fun to be had, but in terms of the final film in the DCEU, nah. So guys, once you have seen Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. Was it the final hurrah you wanted to see in the DCEU, or just a massive letdown? Love you guts, and I'll catch you in the next one.